Yeah. Well, it's nice to meet you, man. I'm looking forward to getting into your work as a business enthusiast and everything that's a part of your kind of evolution as a professional. And to begin that process, I
Mhm.
want to start with something that probably impacted you quite a bit, but I know
Okay.
we're all getting tired of talking about, which is COVID. And one of the epicenters was obviously up in that area. How did you survive that time period, and how did it change the way that you live your life now?
So as far as COVID goes, I was actually this is something just so you're aware, I don't normally talk about religion in terms of, content for obvious
Sure.
reasons, but
Yeah.
I was actually serving as a missionary when COVID hit and a ton of us got sent home, because
Yeah.
of obvious reasons,
Yeah. Yeah.
because of COVID. So honestly, I can jump into my whole life story if you really want to, but I'm volunteering trying to improve myself, get better, get sent home out of nowhere and have to figure out my life, and so does everyone else during
Yeah.
COVID.
Yeah.
So long story short, that's when I really took a look at the world, and I've always had an interest in business, and I was just realizing that especially with COVID, digital is where it's at. I mean, it's where it's going for sure. So um that's when I around COVID is when I first jumped into like digital marketing and just kind of jumped on that venture and learned everything I could in that realm for a couple years. And that's kind of led me to, move on to learn sales pretty well. And that's, just kind of what progressed to get me to this point.
So that was a springboard. So let's get into exactly what you do right now in 2024. And to do that, I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of grade school kids. It's career
Mm-hmm.
day, let's say third graders. And one of the kids is like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer them?
Gotcha. That's funny. This actually just happened to me the other day. And it's very hard to answer because, well, I have two things that I'm doing right now. I have like a full-time job where, well, I guess I'll answer as if it's the third graders. But
Yeah.
so essentially, what I do is I hire doctors, and what they do is work with my program on the computer, and I show them how to help people and make them feel better over the computer. That's the way I'd explain it to, a bunch of third graders.
Yeah.
And then the other project that I would mention as well is just I have an online fitness website, and you can go to my website online. You can find a more of a recovery program more than like a muscle building program. It's not, to get super ripped, but it would be more to make your body feel better, make your back hurt less. It's probably more for your moms and dads,
Yeah, for
and that
sure.
applies to everyone, But so
Yeah.
that's kind of the third grade rundown of what I would do. But
Telehealth is a gold mine now, and I know that when we were all going into it, all the healthcare professionals were like, "We have to do this in person. We can't
yeah,
do this over
yep.
over glass and a screen." Are you feeling as though all of these doctors and medical professionals are embracing it and not even looking back and thinking about the old days?
I was actually just talking to the owner of the doctor platform about this kind of thing, and we both feel like it's kind of a split diverse thing, like there's the
Yeah,
people that are like telehealth is great, it's going to change the world, and then there's the other people that work in hospitals that are like telehealth is awful,
yeah,
like it's definitely split.
yeah.
And I don't know what the percentage might be, but I mean, what we've come to the conclusion is that as time goes on, especially because of COVID, it's definitely growing in the telehealth space, and I think it should, for obvious reasons. But
Yeah, I agree. And it's interesting. It's kind of like books. You're always going to have those old school people that want pulp.
yes,
And then you're going
yes,
to have people that are totally fine with a Kindle or a smart device.
yep,
Just it's
absolutely.
it's human nature. So let's get to the crux of who you are, and to do that, when you were in the third grade, what did you want to be
Mhm.
when you grew up?
So, man, that's a question I didn't think I'd hear. Way to throw me a curveball. Um,
Sorry.
no, no, no. I like it. I like it. Um, honestly, one thing that like it's funny looking back on it now, but like one thing that perplexed me as a kid is I really wanted to like look into like veterinarian type of work, but I'm allergic to most animals, like I'm allergic to dogs and cats, so that kind of, poo-pooed that idea. But
Yeah.
um honestly, I mean, I don't want to give you like the heartfelt emotional answer necessarily, but like what I always wanted to be was just like a family man, like obviously I didn't want to be a stay-at-home dad, that's
Sure.
not what that means, but like I was always just I want to be a dad and I want to be a good one, that's kind of my goal. And as I've gotten older, I've just realized that business and, being good with money more or less is probably the best way to provide for your family. So
Yeah.
You
Well,
get the idea.
yeah, totally. Let's go back to your childhood. Where were you born and raised, and what were these foundational seeds that were planted early on that grew into money management, entrepreneurship? What were those things that ultimately evolved into who you are today?
So this is actually something that I've been reflecting a lot on because, you know, I'm big on like, I don't know why anything is anything type of thing,
Sure.
which you get the idea there. But as far
Yeah.
as like why I am how I am today, I guess you could say, I was raised in Yakima, Washington, actually. So I moved to Tri Cities a few years ago.
Yeah.
It's about an hour away. It's not super far, but so I was born in Yakima, Washington, to some young parents that were pretty religious, and like all of my family makes fun of my dad for how anal he is with money, like, and it's a good thing, it's definitely a
Yeah.
good thing. And obviously he passed that right along to me. So as soon as I turned 16, like you have to get a job, you have to pay your insurance, which I don't know how your thoughts are on this, but I feel like nowadays that's kind of diminishing less and less as,
Yeah.
kids are being raised in the world. It's just, I'll take care of it. Don't worry. I'll pay for your stuff. You just go to school, have fun, whatever it is. Every parent's different. But I
Sure.
think, honestly, a big part of it is my dad passed along that stress, which good and bad, stress
Yeah.
doesn't have to be bad, but he passed along that stress to me that, like, you have to take care of your money and be smart or you're going to be miserable, and he's not like, not nearly as business minded or interested in, growing wealth like I am. But I think because of how he has been very organized with his money, that's kind of passed along to me as well.
So, who's been a hero? Who's ultimately been the inspiration for you to go out on your own and be an entrepreneur and to do these things and to make more money?
I don't know if this is the answer you're looking for necessarily, but I would say there's two people that I kind of have to give a lot of credit to, which I know it's the answer that I think a lot of people hate to hear because of how much they hear it. But Gary Vaynerchuk, I'm sure you're
Okay.
familiar,
Oh, yeah.
and Alex Ramosi are two people. Like when I was getting into marketing, Gary Vaynerchuk was my guy. He kind of motivated me just from his content, And then the same thing when I got into sales and tried to learn that pretty well. Alex Ramosi, he was my guy, and both of them kind of taught me a lot along the way to get to where I'm at now.
So, on your entrepreneurial ascent of feeling comfortable and growing and expanding, if you can meet one entrepreneur alive on the planet right now to spend some time, see how they operate, ask some questions, who would that person be?
Oh, that'd be rough. I'll give you two answers, but
Perfect.
predominantly one.
Yeah.
Um, I would say right now Alex Hormozy, just because I think he's closer to my age than some of the other people, and I think we're more similar in terms of I'm in the health and wellness space. He started in the health, like we have a lot more similarities.
Yeah.
But obviously, like I think Elon Musk would be very cool just to like ask questions and see how he works as well. But that's
Sure.
because he's a lot more private. Obviously, he's not, making content every day like Alex Hormozy is and Gary Vaynerchuk. You get the idea
Yeah.
there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, what is your motivator? All of these guys that you mentioned have a high level of motivation that gets them up and
Mm-hmm.
to accomplish things. What is that for you that gets you out of bed every day? You obviously have a diversification of things that are a part of your professional life, but what is the ultimate gas in your tank every day to do this? And not only to do your job, but to also evolve as a human yourself.
I would definitely say it's a combination of goals.
Yeah.
The biggest one on that list, which is something that I normally keep pretty private, just because as I'm sure most people that care a lot about success only connect to each other, whereas most normal people, when you talk about your goals, they just think you're bragging, you're being ridiculous. You get the idea there. But
Sure.
one big goal that I've had, which I don't have an exact number for it, but I want to pretty much raise as much wealth as I can, provide a good life for my family, and then give pretty much all of it to charities and back to the world.
Wow.
That's which I
That's
think
wonderful.
Alex Ramosi has something similar. Like he has a similar goal.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly, but that's kind of the idea there. Obviously I don't want to be another guy that raises a grows a business, raises a family, and passes it along to his family that eventually ruins it. If you get what I'm saying, not
Yeah.
to be negative, but you get the idea. I've seen that happen a lot with businesses, even like small ones and big ones. We've all
Yeah.
seen it.
You know, what's interesting, I think one of the first people that really kind of emulated that model was Bill Gates. He gives so much to the World Health Organization and so many other organizations that work with countries that just need basic services and healthcare,
Absolutely.
you know. So most of his wealth is going towards that. Um, so let me ask you this, with
Mhm.
everything that you've evolved into at this point, let's say you have a dream tonight, you run into the 18-year-old version of you, and you could give that young version of you a piece of advice based on the life you're living,
Mhm.
the wisdom you've gained along the way. What advice would you impart, and would that version listen?
That's a good question. I mean, um, advice to my 18-year-old self, I would say when I was 18, I definitely was a lot more negative, which I think for one, every 18-year-old is, and just
Yeah,
every person is, you know.
yeah.
Um, I would probably tell myself that you're either going to be the biggest asset in your life or the biggest liability, and you get to decide.
Wow, that's
I
deep.
mean,
That
I'm
is, man.
fairly deep. I try to think deep, but you know, not too deep. But
I've gotten a lot of answers from that. That's definitely it. That
thank
is
you,
the definition of free will right there.
thank you. Yeah,
Because
I think so for sure.
yeah. So of everything that you've done and accomplished in your life, what are you the proudest of?
That's a good question. I would say it, it's kind of hard to explain, but um, I don't know if you read through my bio or the
Absolutely.
the
Yeah.
stuff that I mentioned, but
Yeah.
when I was 18, I got accused of a pretty serious crime, and
Yeah.
it kind of knocked me down, threw me rock bottom, and at 18, you're barely an adult, you're already trying to figure out life, and all of everything that I worked for at that point just got stripped immediately, just taken away, and I didn't know what to do. I was just depressed. So honestly, getting out of that and fixing my mindset to be different, because it's one of those things where when you hit rock bottom, every day you wake up, you don't want to go to work, you hate what you're doing, you go home and watch TV until you go back to work again. It's At that point, life's not worth living to most people, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying, anything suicidal on that point, obviously,
Sure.
but most people aren't excited to wake up and live their life. So
Yeah.
getting past that, and if I'm being completely transparent, there was, I went through like recovery for like watching porn, like everything you can think of. And obviously, I didn't like perfect myself. I still eat ice cream, like,
Yeah.
I'm still a human being, but like all
Sure.
those negative things that I didn't realize were deeply impacting my brain, because I went through a hard experience, obviously. And, I don't like to make excuses, of course, but
Sure.
um, getting past that and like realizing that like family's there and family's all that's going to be there, like, because at that time I got expelled from high school. Like, I never got in trouble once before in my life. And then one day a cop knocked on my door and that was it. That's just the end of everything. But so getting past that and realizing that I was the reason that my life was limited at that point, um, I, I think 99% of everyone successful in the world, it is all because they started in their mind. I don't know if you would agree or not, but I
I
think
do.
it's huge in your mentality for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, it's like anything in life, whether it's business or sports or whatever. Once you can clear your mind and convince yourself of something that's going to happen,
Absolutely.
there you go. You're on your way. You're already manifest destiny pre-stage, and then you just move on from there. So, in this journey to get to a better place after you
Mm-hmm.
hit rock bottom and you were figuring out life, and at 18, we're all just malleable like clay.
Yep.
What's the
Yep.
best advice you've ever gotten?
Oof, that's tough. I want to tell you a joke and tell you that my uncle once told me looks do matter when you're dating. It's like everyone will tell you looks don't matter, but they do.
They do.
That's a joke. But um, are you saying like more in like in person from someone I know personally, or just in
I
general?
guess just in general, I mean, there's some things that I know personally I've read before that
Hmm.
resonate, but then there's been other people that have said very simple things. Like
Okay.
speaking of dating, best advice that
Hmm.
I ever got in courting anybody was from my dad. And he said, whatever you do, ask about them, ask about her,
Gotcha.
ask her
Okay.
questions. And I remember that it was very simple, but it always resonated because it's so
Yeah,
true.
I like that. Okay.
Yeah,
Well, let me give you a more serious answer, actually, regarding dating. Since we're here, but
yeah.
probably the best advice I've gotten in terms of dating is when you're dating or looking around, date someone that you would be proud of if they were your daughter or they were your son if you're a female. Like be not be someone, date someone that you would be proud of if they were your offspring.
Wow.
Which that, yeah, hit me pretty hard. And that's when I thought a little bit deeper about relationships and, X, Y, and Z, life itself. But
For sure, that's deep. So, at the end of the day, of all of the evolution and everything that you've had to overcome, going from rock bottom to where you're at today as a
mhm,
successful entrepreneur, everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, clients, colleagues, everyone that knows you, but you
for sure.
ultimately run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Oh, that's a deep question.
That's a therapy hour.
Hmm. My perception of me, I think a big part of why I am how I am is because I don't really think about the perception of me. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but
Yeah.
and that what that really means is that I don't get super emotional about myself, like um I don't remember who it was, but there was some guru or big name that was saying, I don't want to go to the gym, I still go to the gym. I don't want to get out of bed, I still go to bed. Like I don't want to work on this project, I still work on this project. And I feel like when you live that way, a lot of people think that actually, well, if you don't mind, I have like a really quick story that I could
Please
share that
do.
kind of touches on this.
Yeah.
So a couple years ago, I went back home to visit some family and some family friends, like people I went to church with, families I went to church with.
Yeah.
And the mom of a couple friends of mine was talking to me and just catching up, what have you been up to? So, told her doing this for work, have this marketing business I'm doing on the side as well. And, just having a lot of fun. And she was super nice about it. She was like, "Oh, that's awesome. So what do you do for fun in your free time?" And in my head, I didn't say it out loud, or hopefully, my face didn't say it, but I was like, "I just told you what I did for fun." Like
Yeah.
this is fun.
Yeah.
So I told her I was like, "Oh, just the business. That's where pretty much all my free time goes." And she was like, "Well, you can't just work all the time." And that's something like I've thought about a lot because
Absolutely.
people hear work in business and they're just here boring, hard work, just wait for it to be over. They hear all these negative thoughts in their head. Whereas like I'm like excited to tell people, hey, I'm doing work in business. You get the
Sure.
idea. Like
Yeah.
most people aren't wired that way. It's just not natural.
Yeah.
And that's kind of made me realize that it's all perspective at the end of the day, just I think I'm just all of us are just people that are a combination of different experiences that we've gone through.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think for me personally, growing up and seeing a lot of different experiences early on, good ways and bad ways, obviously, we all
Sure.
have. Um, Growing up to a good family, which I didn't realize until later on, obviously, like a lot of us do, and changing my changing those paradigms, those mental paradigms from I really strongly believe that when I was 18, actually, another thing that I could say is just like everyone else that's a normal person, they always say the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. And that was something that I heard my own family say plenty of times, which
Yeah.
as I've gotten older and learned more about business and mindset and wealth, I think the saying the rich get richer and the poor get poorer is just a lazy way of saying the rich keep growing and the poor stay stagnant.
Yeah.
Because The rich are getting richer because they're growing. They're learning their skills. They're
Yeah.
learning their industries deeper, and poor people are just sitting on the couch waiting for the lottery or
Yeah.
whatever it is.
I get it.
So I mean, that's not a great answer to your question, but that's
No,
just
it
my
is.
rant about it.
It is. It's interesting. And what you were talking about with catching up with that friend is that what do they say? If you find something you love, you won't work a day in your life.
Absolutely.
You know, it's
100%.
it's that notion. So that's totally perfect. So if anyone out there wants to delve into your world further, they want to get involved in anything related to you and reach out, how can they do
Hmm.
that?
I'm trying to grow a Twitter account, so it's pretty much brand new, but I'm
Yeah.
going to try to put all of my little golden nuggets there, try to reach out to people, connect with more people there. I would say there or LinkedIn. And
Okay.
you could find me just from my name, DJ Vandeventer. I think that's the best way to do that. I know it's a
Yeah.
difficult name, but
No, it's good. Has anybody ever been like, so what records do you spin? You're a DJ. Do you ever get that?
no, I've had a lot of people give me their suggestions for, my
Right.
career as a DJ or what my name should be. But,
Yeah, that's awesome. DJ, this has been great. Thank you. Thank you so much for being raw and open. I appreciate it.
absolutely.
And best of luck on your journey, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe. You as well. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
that.